Welcome to my channel, Acheno Gola the Lawyer, Karibuni Sana, and today is Mentorship Wednesday. On my channel today, I have one of my grandfathers. He's going to be sharing very important information in the field of finance and accounting. And if you enjoy the channel, like, share, and subscribe. As I have said before, he's one of my grandfathers. He's going to be sharing very important information. Thank you so much for coming, Mr. Opiyo. And I'm so glad to have you today. And I'm optimistic that people will gain so much from this discussion.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Sure. Thank you.
Yes, so maybe you could start by introducing yourself to my viewers so that they could understand who you are as we go on the conversation.
My name is Onyango Opiyo, and I've worked for 36 years. Now I'm a retiree, and so what I'll be sharing with you today will be based on my past experience over my years of service, active service.
Yes. Yes, thank you so much once again for coming. And even as we begin, I'd love for you to share your career journey, how you transitioned now upon finishing. I don't know, those days was high school or then the A-levels or A-levels. So maybe now you could share your career journey until the point that you retired.
You know, during our time, the education system was quite different.
Okay.
In fact, I started school before independence. So during that time, even Standard 4 you had to do a national exam, and it was called Common Entrance Examination. So this was an exam that primary was divided into two sections. Standard 1 to 4 is called primary, and 5 to 8 was called intermediate. So you cannot move from standard 4 to intermediate unless you pass a national exam. And we were just kids then. So at that time, we could spend time in school doing preps. We actually slept in school to pass standard 4 exam. And the colonial government made it impossible for one to move on. Just imagine standard 4, you must pass the national exam, and if you don't, you cannot repeat in the same school you sat the exam in. So I recall people used to take so much time trying just to pass standard 4. And you could find men who've grown beards moving from one school to another, just trying to pass standard 4. And I recall vividly the headmaster of the primary school, which is standard 1 to 4, specifically came to my father and told me that, look, this boy is too young, do not have him sit the exam. Because people are used to seeing big and old people who've grown beards sitting that exam. So my father politely declined and told him, look, I would not want to have the kid repeat just because he's young. Let him do the exam. If he fails, then he'll repeat. And that's, my father sat down with me when the time came for the exam, prayed for me, and encouraged me. So I went, sat the exam. And I remember when the results were coming, when we were told that the results are out, somebody came from the school, and I was down with malaria. So he told my parents that, look, he has passed. And I couldn't believe, despite the fact that I was sick, I got up and walked to the school, which is about 1.5 kilometers away from home. to see my name on that board. It was posted on the board. And after that, I went on to intermediate, and that is 5 to 8. And at that particular time, I've always been in transition period because we were among the last people to do CEE. That is Common Entrance Examination for going from Standard 4 to 5. And so once that was done, I went on to intermediate and did Standard 8. I recall that we were again the last people to do Standard 8 at that time. So my brother, who was 2 years, my follower, who was 2 years behind me, when they came to Standard 7, they did what is called special paper, which really got now both those who are in Standard 8 and Standard 7 to sit and then join secondary school. So that was the abolition of Standard 8 during our time. Yes, so then we went to secondary school. After secondary school, I went to the famous Adventist school of Kamagambo and did my O-levels. And after that, unfortunately, those days, people didn't get proper career guidance. Because if I did get proper career guidance, maybe I would have done something else apart from what I did. But all that is water under the bridge. We went through, and at that time, people even came to recruit us at Form 4 level. So as we were finishing school, MTC came to recruit us, Kenya Power and Lighting were coming, all employers. Those days, people were employed at O levels. After O levels, we were considered educated people. So I even applied for admission to Medical Training College here in Nairobi, since they came to recruit us, and I was invited to come and do radiography. So actually I would have been now one of these people who take MRI, X-rays, and things like that. But when the results came, I established that I had passed, and I was invited to go and do A-levels. At that time, people were doing A-levels. So it was 4 years of secondary school, and then 2 years of A-levels. Then you go to university. So I was invited to Homa Bay High School, where I did A-levels for 2 years. And then again, I discovered that I passed. I was lucky to have 3 principals and 1 subsidiary. So, and by the way, those days, all these national exams were published. The results were published on the local dailies. Nation and Standard were the papers that were there. So if you didn't do well, it would be common knowledge to the whole country. If you did well, the whole country knew. And people rushed to buy newspapers to know the results of their friends, their loved ones. And so that happened at A-levels. And then I was invited to join University of Nairobi, and I was admitted to do Bachelor of Commerce degree, and that's what I went for 3 years. At that time, university, because you've done 2 years A-levels, so we didn't have to do 4 years like people do now. And then things were very nice at that time. There was only one university in the country, and there were only, say, like 3,000 of us at the university, and everything was free. We didn't have to pay any fees. This Higher Education Loans Board was not there. Again, that was established just as we left university. So I think my brother and sister, those who came after me, they had loans to pay after. But for me, I went scot-free. Because we were very few, we had everything. Even at the university, food was free. we were even paid pocket money at the university. Yeah. We used to call it boom. So people are paid, and even your laundry was done for you. Every Wednesday, Mboni dry cleaners could come collect our laundry, and then on Saturday they return them and collect your dirty, your bed sheet, your socks, your clothes. Everything was very easy and nice. I sympathize with our young people these days who have to pay, even they don't have accommodation. But for us, we had accommodation and very good meals as well. Yeah. So that's basically what it was. So then we finished university, and even then, people used to come and recruit us even before you finish. So for us, by the time we were doing our final exams, prospective employers came looking for us and called us for interviews. I think I was called for 2 interviews. One was with some, I almost got employed by Mabati Rolling Mills. But because of, as a factory manager, that's what they wanted me for. But we could not agree because I'm a Seventh-day Adventist, and they required me, because they were training me to be a factory manager, that I have to be there on Saturdays. And I told them, sorry, but that's the time when I go to church, so I'm sorry, I cannot take the offer. Then I got a job. The university itself gave me a job as a senior assistant accountant. And after getting me on board, I asked the recruitment officer, but the reason why I've not joined the private sector is because those days people were working on a 6-day week. On Saturdays you work up to around 12:30 or 1. And that did not work well with me. I could not do that because I observe Sabbath. So the next thing is, he told me, look, we know there's a librarian who's an Adventist, and they work, they're let off on Sabbath. So you make up for it during the week from Monday to Friday. And that's what I did right from the onset. So I worked up to 5:30 when people were actually leaving at 4:30. But then my immediate boss told me, this arrangement works very well with me, but the chief finance officer needs to know this, because maybe one day he's looking for you, and you are one of the management teams, then I might run into trouble. I said, fine. So he told me, you better inform him officially. I went, informed the chief finance officer. He was a Sikh. And he told me, look, the university works on a 6-day week, so you have to report. And if you cannot do that, then you have to write a letter through me to the registrar of the university to authorize or disallow it. Oh, I wrote that letter through him, and unfortunately, like he'd said no, he advised the registrar not to grant it. So the letter came back, and I was told, sorry, but we cannot have you working on a different working hour schedule like you've been doing. You have to work. So the chief finance officer told me, look, now the choice is yours. He'd done everything to make it very difficult for me at that time. He started by saying that, look, Saturday makes up for Sunday. So we will be deducting 2 days' salary per week from you because you are not working on Saturdays, half day, even though I was making up for it. So he went on, and they started now implementing that and deducted that money that way. So after some time, after now I wrote that letter, and it was rejected. He told me, now it's your choice, resign or work. So I wrote a letter of resignation. Luckily for me, my resignation at the level I was taken required 3 months' notice. So I thought that would have been more than adequate for me to get another job. And so I took this, after submitting my letter, when I went to his office with the letter, so he told me, now you've agreed to come to work. And I said, no, sir, I've been forced to resign because of the terms that you gave me. So he told me, look, how can you do such a thing to me? I even gave you a grade higher than other graduates because we considered you to be a professional in your field. So how can you now come? And it has caused a lot of problems with other graduates who were hired a grade lower than you and who had come before you. So I told him, sir, but this is a matter of faith and conviction. I'll not be able to do anything about it. So he went on telling me, we Sikhs have a religion and we work 7 days a week in our religion. I said, thank you, sir, but now that's something it's a matter of faith. So to make the long story short, I attended my resignation, 3-month resignation notice. And then the following week, which was now on Monday, when I told the placement officer, at the university then at that time, we had a placement officer, and his job was coordinating job opportunities because all prospective employers would come to them and tell them we are looking for this and that kind of person. So he told me, look, it's an international organization looking for somebody like you. Why don't you fill this form? They brought these forms and you could try your luck there. When he realized that now this job could not work. And I was I had filled the form, took it on a Tuesday, and they were interviewing me. They were based at KICC. So I was given the interview, and the next question they asked me, when do you want to start working? Can you start tomorrow? I said, no. I cannot leave work like that without notice. I would have to go back to my current employer and discuss these issues with them. So I went back and they told me, you let us know when you can start. I told them I should give at least a notice of 3 months, but there's a clause which allows me to request for a shortage of the notice period. So I requested for the notice period to be reduced to 30 days, and they were happy to do it, to accept that. And they accepted it, and they refunded all the monies that they had been deducting for Saturday and Sunday, and gave it there. It was God's wonderful and miraculous work. Now, the job that I got was with an international organization which now works from Monday to Friday at 2 p.m. And that just suited me. It's exactly what I was looking for. So on Fridays, you work from 8 to 2 p.m. without a lunch break, and that's it. Then you go home. So in a nutshell, I served in the organization for a long time. Now I didn't change jobs again. I worked with them for 36 years, and it took me to different countries. I think I worked in Namibia, I worked in Mozambique. Most of it was here in Nairobi. I worked in Angola. Then I also worked in Rwanda, and also the last stint I was transferred from Rwanda to Tanzania, and that's where I retired from. Yes.
Okay, that's really nice. I've loved the whole journey that you've told me. And
Yes.
now even as we are reflecting on that career journey, we want to now impart knowledge on our viewers on especially the field of now finance and accounting. For example, now for the 36 years that you worked during that whole period, did you work in different capacities, and also did you advance your education, because at that time of employment you only had your degree? So how
Yes.
are you able to advance your education?
I will tell you that the correct thing to do is to progress into professional accounting, which I didn't, because for one, the job was so busy. I think I only went up to part 2 of CPA. And then you could work until late at night. I remember sometimes we would work so much that I remember one day I even forgot to collect children from school. So I get home at around 8 p.m. Then my wife asked, "Where are the children?" I said, "My goodness." Then I started rushing to look for the children at school. They were still in primary school. And when we got there, we found the watchman had walked them to my brother's place. I tell you, but those are some of the sad incidents of having to work so hard. So, in a nutshell, what I would tell you is now the profession or working in accounting finance is very competitive. And therefore, for you to really compete effectively, you need to pursue that professional career as well. Then it opens all avenues. If you want to go into professional accounting, a professional accounting firm, you will be able to do that. If you want to work in the private sector, they'll still do with your services. If you want to work with the international organizations, NGOs, you realize that this is a field that requires, any organization will require accounting and financial management. Yes. So we cannot, no organization can succeed without having proper financial management. Yes.
So what you're advising is that someone should actually pursue, of course.
Exactly. Professional accounting on top of the degree.
As we continue to talk about the career growth, what are some of the opportunities available in the field of accounting and finance?
Okay. That's precisely what I'd touched on it a little earlier. You will have, if you are advanced and you qualify in those areas, the sky is the limit. You can rise up to the financial controller. You can be a chief accountant of an organization. You can be anything that requires financial expertise. Yes, so, nowadays the market is a bit saturated. But if one does their very best and excel in it, you will be among the people to be considered when all these things, when recruitment takes place. So you cannot say that you are not able to get a job if you are among the top cream. Mm-hmm.
At that time that you applied for this job, did you find any challenges, or what are the certain challenges maybe that you encountered in your career?
Okay, at first when we joined, we were very surprised. We thought that we were very qualified people, but that did not turn out to be what we thought. Because in the international organization, there are various categories of staff. So they have people who are called field staff, and these are people who are called upon to man communications, radio, and all that kind of stuff, transport, and anything like that. Now those, they recruit them from all over the world. Then you have local staff, and that when we were recruited, we weren't aware that there is that differentiation. So when I joined, then I found that we were in the same job group with the people whom we thought we'd done better. And we could see that some of the secretaries could move on and become personal assistants of the very senior management. And then, when time came now, for you to move from that category of local staff, you need to do what is called competitive exam. Yes. So we found that there were people who managed to get through without having to go through those competitive exams. Whereas for us, first you have to wait for a vacancy to occur in your field, and then you do an open competitive exam where people are all invited. All who think they're qualified will apply for it and get the job. So it took, I never saw any vacancy falling through, because we could see that people were brought from outside the country, and they would encumber these posts that we thought we could encumber, and it brought some friction between us and the management, but we were very diplomatic about it. So what happened? Time eventually came. At that particular time, I was on a peacekeeping mission in Namibia. So one of the admin assistants, personnel assistants, sent to me a job opening in our section, which the administration had never even thought about people who were out on mission. But we thank God, they brought that, she sent that, and I applied, and I was convoked to come and sit the exam. So the exam was sent to me over there in Namibia. I was locked up in a room on my own by the chief human resource officer. He timed me on all the written subjects that we were given. So after doing the exam, and then I was called, my papers were sent back to this place, the head office. And they marked them. If you fail the written exam, because there was the specialized paper which tests you in accounting, then there was a general paper which tests you on anything, including environmental issues, the things that cause climate change, but those are things which I was very well informed in. So when the results came, I was told I passed that, and they called me to come and do now the oral interview. And I recall my colleagues saying, how could these people call you all the way from Namibia to come and do this exam? We think that this post must be reserved for you. Say, what do you mean? I'm just doing it like everybody else. So I did the interview, which there was a panel of around 6 or so people, and each person had a specific area of interest that they were interviewing me on. And I remember the only question that I didn't know, I told them they asked me, do you know what AMSEN is? So I said, what is AMSEN? It's an acronym. Then I told them, I've never ever heard of such a thing. And so we passed it. And then all these others asked me questions which in their specialized areas of interest. And then this lady came back again and asked me, "Do you know what AMSEN is?" So I told her, "I'm sorry, madam, but this is something I'd never heard of in my life. Unless it's something that's new, but I'm generally informed, but I've never heard." So they told me the meaning of that is African Ministers, no, it is African Ministers Conference on Environment. So I said, when was this body formed? And I discovered it was a very recent thing I hadn't heard of. But then later, after that, I went back to my post in Namibia. And after some time, I get a phone call from the HR person in Nairobi and told me, "Congratulations, you are the one selected to encumber this post. So we give you just 2 weeks within which to wind up, maximum 1 month to wind up and come back and start doing this job." Because now you start as chief of a unit within finance. And by the way, this made a lot of difference because for one, when you become an international civil servant in a way, because it entitles you to import duty-free stuff, and even your vehicles have red number plates, so you're kind of a diplomat in your own country, so the policemen don't harass you and all that kind of stuff. So we thank God for that. So then now I've progressed. Of course, now your salary is denominated in dollars, unlike shillings when you were in the general service category. Yeah, so it was quite a blessing in disguise, and there are many benefits that came with that. Yes.
So now, in the various places that you worked, like for example, as you've said, Angola, Mozambique, was there a time you are posted somewhere and maybe you felt you are not up to the task? And if you felt so, how did you handle that?
The worst, a task that I was not quite up to. I remember in Namibia, I was charged with the responsibility of setting up the accounting software package. There was this guy who was qualified in just the technical know-how of how that accounting package works. But then I had to do the accounting side of it to tell him, this is, if you want accounts receivable, this is the where it ought to go. All assets, liabilities, cash, investments and all that. So it was my work now to work with this guy in setting up the accounts in this, it was called Foxbase. And it was now my task to set up the accounting system within this software. And that was quite a challenge because that's not something I'd done before. But we worked day and night. Sometimes we would work until 1, 2 a.m. But when this was accomplished, I was so happy because now we were able to use that accounting system, and I, from nowhere, just through hard work and learning, we were able to set up this accounting package with this gentleman.
Yeah, that is very lovely. And even as we reflect now on the field that you have worked for a couple of years, do you feel there is any change in the maybe the system of education or how people are taught then and now in the field of accounting and finance, or it has remained the same with just a few changes here and there?
I think accounting, over the period that I've worked, we've gone through so many things that you cannot believe, changes that we've observed. When we started working, we were using manual typewriters to type vouchers. That is something nowadays I hardly see manual typewriters. I remember Olivetti, Remington, and things like that. You people of these days will not know about such things. But we transitioned from using manual systems like that, even the accounting itself. We were manually doing vouchers, and then the electronic data processing would take those and key them in. But over the period that I've worked, I've seen so much change. So accounting packages have been developed just like the one I was telling you about. So as you enter the data in the computer, it's all captured and you print out that voucher. So there's nothing like typing or doing things like that. And so then we also had accounting packages, spreadsheet packages, which we never had when we started work. And we were all trained during that. We started like Quattro Pro, and then Lotus 1, 2, 3, and then now Excel spreadsheets came, replaced that, which are still in use right up to now. So over that time, we have seen so much change that people, if I tell people what we did during that time and how we've developed using desktop computers, we've seen desktop computers evolve from this big box in front of you into flat screen, and then packages, the machines have developed. You have this flat screen which has the CPU in it itself. Now, those are things which people these days will never understand where people came from. But it's quite a transition, what we observed happening up to the time that we are in now. Yes.
Okay, and even now, as you progressed in your career, what are the certain values and principles that enabled you to, gain favor and even get such positions and be recommended?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think the most important thing is being diligent, hard work. If you don't focus on your job to be dependable so that your boss has no worries when he gives you an assignment, he knows that it will be accomplished. That is very, very important for any person, any young person who's going to start work. Dependability and being self-motivated. You don't have somebody pushing you in order to do things. That is very frustrating to any manager. If you have a staff member who you always have to be following, that did you do this? Then you find they have excuses that, oh, I didn't do it because of this and that. So what has served me all along is honesty and being straightforward. I'll give you an example. One time when we started work there at Kenyatta Conference Center, so you are in finance and then you have people in procurement. So this guy calls me and tells me, hey, Opiyo, there's an invoice there that we'd like to be paid. If you can make sure that it is paid by today, you will get something out of it. That gentleman is now late. I said, what? You are telling me that I need to jump? It was first come, first served. And that was the order which we observed. So that you don't have people complaining that you are delaying with paying them. Suppliers and staff members, you must do them in the order in which they come. So he told me that if you can see to it that is done today, you'll get something out of it. In other words, the supplier has told him that if you can have this process, I'll give you something. And then now he's promising me, in charge of these payments, that if I do it, then he'll share it with me. So I told him, look here, man, this, I am paid properly for the job that I'm doing. So this idea of telling me that if I do my work, then somebody is going to pay me again for what I'm paid for, I don't operate like that. And I told him, let that be the last time you're making a request like that, because I will not do such a thing. And this is the thing that pervades our system now. Even now, you read the papers and you see people engaged in corrupt practices. They are not satisfied with what they are doing, the job that they are doing. They are looking for ways and means of enriching themselves on the job, rather than just earning the salary that they are paid to do the job. So that is my principle, and that is how I've operated. It has served me very well, and I'm sure it will serve other young people as well.
Wow, that is very important, as you've said, about honesty and hard work, because I think those are the major challenges facing the youth, and that's why maybe some employers are actually complaining about the youth. And also, because at some point in these capacities you're a leader, what leadership skills were maybe difficult to develop, or what leadership skills have also helped you be able to serve people well and also cooperate with your juniors?
Okay. The most important thing is openness with your staff members. They know, make it very clear what their goals are, the targets that you would like them to achieve. And you equip them with the tools for doing their jobs. Now, one of the most challenging things is to have somebody equipped with, by the way, sometimes it's not possible to recruit people that meet your standards, because recruitment is done by HR. Of course, you'll make an input. But sometimes you come to an organization and you find people who are already there, and you had no input in how they were recruited. And sometimes you find they don't meet. That is the biggest challenge. Developing somebody who's used to malingering and not achieving the goals. Because when one person does not achieve your goals, you end up taking the blame for them, because you cannot say, oh, it's so and so. The people above you will see that you yourself are not doing your job. So you have to motivate your staff, equip them. If they need training, get them to have that training so that they're able to accomplish the goals and objectives. And if it comes to a time that now you've tried all that you do, that is one of the most frustrating things. Then we could do a rotation. He's given an opportunity to work elsewhere and see if maybe he can do better. Yes, but first, you need to equip your staff with the tools that they need to accomplish the goals and objectives. Be open with them, tell them, and motivate them. Of course, there are promotion systems also. If somebody does very well, they should be promoted to recognize what they're doing. Yes.
Okay, that is very lovely. And even now, as we are winding up, what are the certain skills that you would advise a young person to have as they are approaching the job market and even as they're developing in their life?
Very good, thank you. What I would say is, any young person in whatever pursuit you're engaged in, make sure that you are among the top. Because when there is competition, like I told you earlier, those days we were very few. Even people who graduate from the university, they look for you when you're still there. But now we've had a situation whereby all technical institutes that we used to have been changed to universities. So now everybody is becoming a graduate. And it's something that maybe our system needs to have a look at again, because we want to develop middle cadre staff, technicians, people who can engage in crafts like carpentry, masonry, people who, electricians, people who are qualified to do those things perfectly. When we were building our house, I discovered that there's a big challenge. People who know how to even do a proper roof are very few, and the architect was telling me that is a problem with our industry, the system that we have. So whatever you engage in, I was very surprised. One time I was visiting with my brother in California, and I met a young man, a white young man, and I asked him, he was just a boy, what do you plan, or what do you envisage you want to be in life? And the answer he gave me was so surprising, that he wants to be a carpenter. Now, in our country here, can you hear a kid telling you that he aspires to be a carpenter? Everybody just thinks of going to university, and this is not right. We must have people who are trained in all areas. We shouldn't have a situation whereby everybody aspires to be a white-collar job seeker. But to answer your question, whatever you are engaged in, be the top person. Do your best to be among the top. And you will always find that the top cream are the people sought by the employers. Yes.
It's lovely. And now to the final, let me say, conclusion. What decisions will you advise also young people to make early in life? Because I see some people maybe in their 30s still not sure of what they want about themselves. So what decisions will you advise young people?
Okay. What I'll tell you is that is based on my past experience. I'll give you an example. When we started work, we had the option of making contribution to our pension. And at that stage, when you're recruited, it becomes optional. Do you know that many young people, when they start work, they want to have as much disposable income as possible and forget about investing for the future? So investing for your future, or even when you are old, like I am now, you start when you start working. Don't wait that maybe later when you are 40, 50, that's when you start. It will be too late. So you won't have enough to live on during your pension time. So it's now that you have to start planning for your future. And don't get involved in consumption. There's some mistakes that I made. I remember when we started work, we all aspire to have cars. That's what we wanted to do. And I recall that I worked for 3 years without a car. And then, when I had saved enough, that was my first investment, which is a mistake. I bought a brand new Toyota Corolla. At that time, you know how much Toyota Corolla cost? I remember it cost 51,022 shillings. That is from the showroom. And they all came from Japan. We didn't have used cars like it is now. So I raised 24,000 shillings. No, I think 28. And then the balance was financed by one of the financial institutions over 18 months. But now in retrospect, what I should have done is invest. Then you'll have more disposable income returns on investment. And then you'll be able to buy even better cars than people who just, because I've left university now, I need a car. but you really don't need it. So we should invest when we are still young. Don't wait until the time that you imagine that there is a better time later when you, because it has helped me now, like for instance with my children, when they were going to university, it's that investment that helped me. Because sometimes you might retire when one or two of your kids are not in university, have not finished. They are there, but they're not finished. And what I did is I invested, like, I started with $250 in 1993. Then later I moved to $500 per month. And by the time it matured, by the time I was leaving work, I had around 47,000 UK pounds for educating these kids. And they were able to have UK education. So those who had not finished by the time I retired were still able to, and they were, when they had that, now Daddy is retiring, they were asking, Daddy, and we have not finished. How are we going to get because the eldest daughter went to UK. Her follower went to UK. The son went to, so now these other two, everybody wanted to study in the UK. And if I had not planned for that, and now you tell your last born kid, last born, then now for you, let's try to study here in Kenya. And so that is why I'm saying you must plan for the future right from the time you start work.
Yes, that has been very informative. Thank you so much for your time, and I'm so glad that you're able to share such kind of information.
You're most welcome. I'm happy that if that experience is of use to the young people, it will be very great for me to be of help to them.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.